All right, so there we go.
I don't think it's working. Okay. Oops. There we go. Hi, YouTube.
Cool. Hey, YouTube.
Okay, now we're live on Instagram as well. Got YouTube. Hey, everyone.
Hey, hey.
Welcome. We are going to be talking about more good stuff with B12 and just going live on Instagram and YouTube. Are you ready?
Yeah, looks like.
And we're gonna on YouTube, we're gonna share our screen on a few articles. So Ben's just kind of getting that all set up right now. This will be our first time doing it, so just bear with us because he wants to make sure that we can be able to do that. And if you're on Instagram, you can either join us on YouTube if you want to see those articles, or you can always go and look later at the articles that he'll be showing us.
And I don't know where it is.
Isn't it that little?
That's what I thought it was, but it's not. Allow me to click it.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
All right. Well, we won't be showing you those articles,
okay.
but
we'll have to troubleshoot.
But we'll tell you where to go find them. They're
yeah.
Well, you can go and check these articles out because it explains a lot of the stuff that's going on right now. But today, I think we wanted to focus more on like talking about B12. In the last video we did, the last live on Sunday, we talked about, you know, how the most important way to get your B12, the best B12 you can get out there is from the living microorganisms that live on the fruits and vegetables and wild foods and herbs. And so today we're going to talk about the top 2 reasons that people are B12 deficient.
Yes, really important to understand this.
So what causes you to not have B12, or when you go into the doctor, they run some blood work and all of a sudden you come back and you're B12 deficient. That's what it says, at least in the blood work. So we're going to talk about some of those reasons today, why people struggle with B12 deficiency and what's causing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, everybody is pretty much B12 deficient today, you know, and it diminishes with each generation, right? Because every generation is getting less and less and less B12. So it just continues and continues and continues with each generation.
Yeah, and our bodies rely heavily on B12 for thousands of daily functions. So if you're having some sort of symptom, it's possible it could be related to a B12 deficiency. So it's really critical for like your nervous system. It is really important for the endocrine system. It helps boost your mental and emotional health. It helps build your immune system. It helps protect against viruses such as the Epstein-Barr virus and many other viruses. And it also helps strengthen the neurotransmitters in your body. Right?
Yeah, totally. It'll help with inflammation. If you guys are dealing with inflammation, we know what causes inflammation. And if you don't, go check out our video we did talking about the true causes of inflammation. And viruses are the cause of inflammation. And that's what is causing the different nerves in your body to become inflamed. It's also, B12 is critical for methylation, helps with liver cell communication. It helps with a stagnant and sluggish liver, helps prevent every symptom and condition you can think of. You know, and everybody's dealing with a symptom and condition today, and B12 is just that important.
Yeah, so as you can, oh shoot, sorry YouTube. I knocked off our camera. There we go. We're good.
Yeah, that should be good. Yeah, we're good.
Sorry, guys. So as you can see, it is really important for your body's functioning, because all those things we listed off are really important that they're in tip-top shape. But so the top two reasons that your body is deficient in B12 are, we're going to go through them. So the first one is your liver. And if you guys have heard us talk about the liver, you know that pretty much everyone has a stagnant, sluggish liver that's, you know, really bogged down by all these toxins that we come into in a daily basis, right? So we all have toxic livers. We're all born with a toxic liver. When you're born, it's not a fresh liver like most people might think, because all of these toxins and things are passed down from generation to generation. So what Anthony says, the medical medium, is that when you're born, it's working at about 70%. But as generations go on, and you know, if you're not cleaning up your liver and then you have a kid, their liver's likely working less than 70% because it's getting even more toxins passed down to it. So why are our livers so toxic? So there's like tons of stress that we go through on a daily basis. There's financial stress, there's, you know, emotional stress. There's so many things that bog it down, right? What else?
Yeah, and those stresses create adrenaline. That adrenaline then goes to the liver, and then that's what causes some of your liver problems. But you know, everybody's in fear right now. They're freaking out. You know, there's a pandemic going on, and if you've read any of Medical Medium's books, he explains that viruses, they're created in these private classified labs. And this has been going on since the early 1900s. And they just somehow either walk out of the lab or they're released on us through medical treatments.
Yeah, and Anthony talks about that.
Yeah, and so where I wanted to take you today on the YouTube screen was I wanted to take you to the CDC website and kind of show you what those medical treatments are. And maybe we'll do that in another video, but you know, these medical treatments are essentially released on us through something that is going on right now. You know, you hear it all over the news. There is a possible V that is the solution to
this thing that will be injected.
This virus that's going on.
And we're avoiding saying certain words because there's a lot of censorship going on right now. So,
but those,
just know that.
Yeah, those V's, they contain a lot of different things. You're going to get the virus in that, and you're also going to get mercury in that. And remember, viruses, they have been created in these labs and they have been fed eggs, you know, and that's what keeps the virus alive in these labs is the eggs and traces of mercury.
Yeah.
Well, what's in these V's are viruses, traces of mercury, eggs, aluminum salts, antibiotics, and antibiotics contain traces of mercury in them. So you're getting hit with mercury in two different forms in these V's. And, you know, this is a big reason that people aren't going to recover after they go out and get these V's. And another reason that
toxins in them.
Another reason that how these viruses are released on us is through the V's and through a seasonal injection that people typically get around cold and flu season. So just something to be aware of, that don't believe everything you're seeing on TV.
Yeah, and we'll figure out. We wanted to show you guys these articles that show this information, but
yeah, it shows exactly all the ingredients in.
Yeah, they list it right on the website, but they say that it's a safe amount, or it's they'll say it's a mercury that doesn't harm you or cause any sort of toxicity. But every mercury is a heavy metal and is gonna do damage for your body, and you don't want it inside of you.
Yeah, so essentially, if you go out and you get a V, you're putting the virus that is going on right now, this pandemic, you're putting it in your body. You're feeding it if you're still consuming eggs, dairy, or gluten, and you're keeping it in like a hypnotic state with all of the mercury. And then the antibiotics in there is then lowering your immune system, which is then allowing this virus to cause further harm to your body.
Yeah, so just something to know. We wanted to bring that to your guys' attention.
But yeah, back to the liver.
Yeah. So our livers get overburdened by stress and by viruses and other toxic things, just like what we were talking about. But they are loaded with toxic heavy metals. They're also loaded with bacteria. I said viruses already, mold, so many environmental exposures. So like different pesticides, air fresheners, scented candles, cleaning products, conventional makeup, conventional cleaning products. You guys, if you haven't listened to Anthony's podcast about colognes, perfumes, scented candles, all that, you have to listen to it. And then we also did a talk about it on our YouTube. Really important, because all of that stuff is really hurting your health, and it's burdening our livers. And then we come into contact with so many other things. So there's daily basis, we come into contact with like gasoline when you're filling up your gas tank, or exhaust fumes, burning plastics, paint fumes, gas stoves, carpet cleaners. So just all of these different like toxic things are burdening our livers. And even if you cleaned up your bubble of these things, you still come in contact with when you're out and about, and you probably were exposed to it prior to cleaning up your household. So it's really important to clean those up, because your liver is super burdened with these
or
things.
you inherit it.
Or you inherit
that stuff from past generations.
Yeah.
So, you could have that stuff going on in you and without even knowing it. So,
yeah, totally.
There's chemicals in our water supply. You're exposed to radiation from traveling, cell phones, past nuclear fallouts, and even food and water. And then a lot of people are consuming caffeine, and, caffeine's going to weaken your neurotransmitters. It's a diuretic, so you're going to pee out all of the minerals, vitamins, and nutrients, including the B12. So if you guys are consuming these elevated biotics, these living microorganisms, they get in your body, they produce that B12, you drink your coffee in the morning, and now you're peeing out the B12 that's critical to neurotransmitters functions,
And because it creates so much adrenaline, your liver is then collecting that adrenaline, and then you're adding more burden to your liver.
Yep. And then the food we eat also plays a role in all of this. So we talked about earlier that eggs, dairy, and gluten are the top 3 that feed viruses. But there's also a lot of foods you want to avoid. There's MSGs, which are like food chemicals. That includes nutritional yeast. But we're told that nutritional yeast is high in B12. Right? So if you go to your doctor, they run blood work, they say you're B12 deficient. You need to have, and you tell them, well, I'm a vegan or I'm plant-based. Then what they tell you back is, okay, nutritional yeast. Bring in more nutritional yeast because it's got the B12 in it.
Yeah, when it's terrible for your gut, and it sticks to like your intestinal linings and just wreaks havoc.
Yeah, so it prevents the B12 from even working. So it's like
Yeah.
the opposite of what they're telling you. And then there's like artificial sweeteners, citric acid, formaldehyde, preservatives, drink alcohol, or there's even alcohol in pharmaceuticals, or there's alcohol in tinctures, so you want to avoid the alcohol, avoid a lot of the trends. There's a big trend with the fish oil supplements that contain mercury. We just explained mercury is going to feed viruses. We don't want mercury in us. It's going to keep them alive.
Right.
Collagen, colostrum. We did a video on apple cider vinegar. You don't want apple cider vinegar or any fermented food in your body, because that's just going to pickle those toxins in your cells, and that's going to prevent the B12 from getting into your cells, which is what we need to get to have our daily functions.
Yeah. And then there's trendy high fat diets. And so when you have a high fat diet, your blood is really thick, and then you can't get, the B12 and all your other supplements to your liver and organs that need it because your blood is so thick. So you got to stay away from the high fat diets, keep your fats low. If you're not sleeping enough, this is causing a lot of stress on your body. So it's like all of these factors that we just mentioned are overburdening your liver, which is then causing a B12 deficiency. And then this just really stresses out your nervous system, burns out your adrenals, and then boom, you're B12 deficient and all of that. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it can, you could see a lot of symptoms pop up, which, like, are you gaining mystery weight gain? That's a big one. And, that's caused by a stagnant, sluggish liver. So if you're putting on a lot of mysterious weight, that's, that has to do with the liver. If you're dealing with mystery symptoms and conditions, that has to do with the liver. If you're, on a high-fat diet and your blood is too thick, then that's going to affect the liver. It's going to affect your central nervous system, and all your organs are going to take a hit, which B12 repairs all these things. So it's like liver is getting really beat up.
Yeah.
Right. So, that's like the number one reason that people are B12 deficient.
Yeah. So number one reason, your liver is overburdened. All of those toxins, but don't worry, you can cleanse it with the right tools. So it's not the end of the world.
Well, let's talk about like the number one tool.
The number one tool, celery juice?
No, the elevated biotics.
Oh, well, but this is the second reason though, right?
But it's also the best way to get
the number
B12.
one tool to get your B12. Yeah. Yes. Yes. So elevated biotics that you get from these microorganisms, people aren't getting enough of this.
Yeah, and if you didn't watch our last live, we talked about these living microorganisms. They live on the skin of fruit, the leaves of plants like veggies and herbs and wild foods, and these living microorganisms, when they excrete in your body, when they poop in your body, that is a form of B12, and then that B12 makes its way down a hepatic portal highway through your liver and then gets converted. And when it gets converted in your liver, it gets converted into a usable form of B12 that then can go to your central nervous system. It can go to all your organs. It can go to all the right places where that B12 is going to benefit you.
Yeah, definitely.
Hi. Yeah, and so part of this whole thing is is when you go to the stores and stuff, right? You go to the store and you buy your fresh fruits and vegetables. Calm down. You buy your fruits and vegetables at the store, right? And the store typically washes that stuff for you, right? So it gets washed from the farmer. When the farmer is processing your crops, it gets washed in the grocery store. And then it could even get washed from the distributor before it actually gets to the grocery store. And then you're going to wash it a fourth time. So by the time you get your fruit and your veggies, it could be washed up to 4 times, washing off all of those elevated biotics. So
Yeah.
it's important to not wash your crops.
Well, and it's important, we talked about this in our last video, it's important to get those elevated biotics by, you know, going to like the farmer's market and maybe you're getting your leafy greens there, or you're growing something at home like sprouts, or if you have room in your yard in a garden to grow leafy greens there. So when we were farming this past summertime and we brought our stuff to the farmer's market, we wouldn't wash it because we know it holds those wonderful elevated biotics. And our leafy greens weren't dirty. I mean, maybe there was a little bit of dirt, but it was totally fine, totally sellable. So we wouldn't wash ours. And if anything, you know, advise people, you know, you can eat it as is or just give it a light rinse. That way you're still getting those elevated biotics.
And we didn't use any animal product on our farm. So this was 100% veganic, no animal products used.
Yeah.
Animal manure can be toxic. You know, if someone eats animal manure on their food, that animal manure could have bacteria in it, which then could be toxic for you, right? Since we're not using any animal product, it's even a better reason not to wash your food. But within the organic certification, if something is organically certified, they can still use animal product. They can still use synthetic fertilizers. So it's another reason to grow your own stuff, grow your own food.
And we wouldn't use any pesticides or anything like that either.
No way.
So nothing needed to be washed off.
Yeah.
At all. Yeah. So you want these elevated biotics and you don't want to wash them off because you want them in your system and to make it all the way to your ileum, right?
Yeah, and the ileum is right at the end of your intestinal tract, right before your colon. And this is where those elevated biotics nest. This is where they sit, and they need the right conditions to stay alive. They need the right temperature, the right pH, the right food. And as long as you keep feeding them, you know, feed them all the fruit and vegetables and herbs and wild foods, then they're going to stay alive and they'll produce that enzyme. And that enzyme will then get converted by the liver. And once it gets converted by the liver, it will take some of that, send it through your bloodstream to your nerve cells, which are in your central nervous system, your organs, and then it will actually hold some aside and save it for a rainy day.
Yeah, and so do you guys know what is important for the B12 to travel and make it to all your organs? We did a video on it, and it is glucose. Glucose is needed in order to deliver the B12 and all of your other supplements and vitamins to your liver and to all of your organs. This is really important. And you want to keep your fats down too. Because if you have a thick blood, well, when you eat a high-fat diet, you have thick blood, and the B12 and your supplements can't make it anywhere with thick blood. So it's really important to keep your fats down. You know, maybe don't do fats in the morning when you're taking your supplements, and then also having some glucose. So like a piece of fruit, some honey, squash, things like that.
Yeah, it's like the glucose, and we say glucose, we're talking about like fruit, you know. So like when you take your supplements in the morning, take it with some fruit. I know you did, but I'm just I wanted to say it in my way.
Okay.
So the fruit is like, you know, in order to get into the cell, you need the fruit.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. Anything else on that?
No.
Okay.
No, I think we hit it on the head there. You know, and then the fat, we want to consume less fat because it's going to thicken up your blood. You know, remember that your liver is cleaner and freer of these toxins. When your liver is cleaner and freer of these toxins, then the B12 can really take effect, right? So if you lower your fats and start to remove some of these toxic things from the liver, then the liver can take that B12 in and process it. And, the B12's main purpose is to restore the nerve. That's why so many people are running around with neurological problems. And there's only one other outside food source really that, you can get B12 from, and that is, like insects, like earthworms and moths and grasshoppers, because they feed off of these living microorganisms on the plants.
That's all they eat.
Yeah, so they're eating nothing but B12 all day. So yeah, if you want to go out and do that, I guess you can, but we stick to the supplements, right?
Yeah, so if you don't want to eat insects, which most people don't, you can get the B12 through supplementation. But you want to make sure it's the right kind of B12. So that is really important. You don't want anything synthetic or with preservatives. And you want to take, it's called methylcobalamin and adenosylcobalamin. I can't say it as good. Really important. So we take the kind from Vimergy. It's a liquid B12. And is really like the best quality out there.
It's in a tincture form. It's red. It's made with vegetable glycerin. It's sweet. It's tasty.
Yeah, really good for you. And then like we said, make sure you're taking it with some glucose and trying to keep your fats low. That way, it's getting delivered to your body.
Or at least when you're going to take it, lower the fats. Like take it in the morning with no fats. And then eat the fat because the fats will thicken the blood. We did a video on that. Go on our YouTube and you can check out a video on how long fats stay in the bloodstream in the liver. It explains all of that.
Really interesting. It takes like 12 hours for pork to leave your bloodstream.
Yeah, 12 to 16 hours.
12 to 16 hours. So let's say you had it for dinner. You wake up early, it's still in your bloodstream. So kind of crazy. But yeah, that's a really interesting video that you guys should check out.
And, make sure to go on the CDC website and check out what is actually in the ingredients of those V's. Remember, we talked about it earlier. I'm not going to say what, but I know what I'm talking about here. It's in the media right now. They're trying to get everybody to take these V's to heal this pandemic. And you guys got to go on the CDC website.
It's pretty easy to find.
Yeah, you can just, what's in these, the ingredients. Type that into Google.
Type the full word.
Yeah, type it. Yeah, go on the CDC website. You could search for it or just look in Google. But you'll find it. Lists all the ingredients. Once you see these ingredients, you might think twice about going out and getting one of these things.
Yeah. So yeah, we were born with bodies that can withstand things, and when you have the right tools, which is fruits, veggies, wild foods and herbs. So fruits, veggies, herbs, and wild foods. That's 4 things. Those 4 things are what you need to keep your body strong, to keep your immune system up. Yeah.
And you can fight this thing off.
All these things.
Don't worry about what's going on right now. This stuff has been going on since the early 1900s, and everybody has viruses in them. It's just we need to stop feeding them, stop making them stronger, So if you're just jumping on right now, go back and re-listen to this and listen to what we talked about with the liver, and you'll start to understand what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right.
That's it. So we hope you enjoyed this. We hope you learned about the top 2 reasons we're all B12 deficient. And I think we're going to jump on tomorrow and talk about the blood work. So you go into the doctor runs some blood tests, comes back, you're B12 deficient. Well, what the heck does that mean, right? So tomorrow we're going to explain how wrong all of these blood work tests are and how these B12 shots that they give you actually do nothing for your body. So stay tuned tomorrow for that one.
That'll be a good one because there's a lot of false information out about that stuff.
Yep.
So,
alrighty.
All right, we'll see you guys.
See ya. Bye.